If you like the idea of painting birds in a few simple strokes, this video's for you. Not only that, but we'll do it with a single brush. It'll be the Dagger brush. We'll paint this imaginary bluebird in flight with all its feathers, pointy beak and soft eye, all with our Dagger brush. When you know what strokes your brush can make, then you start seeing these strokes in your subject. I'll show you these strokes, and with a bit of practice, they'll become second nature and you'll start seeing them everywhere. But first, I'll mention our materials. Today I'm using Meaden cold press paper, my Rosemary & Co. 3/8 Shiraz dagger, and from Daniel Smith, cobalt teal blue and indigo. We're going to start with these outer flight feathers. For our first stroke, I'm loading my brush with a tea-like consistency of the cobalt teal blue, making sure it's not dripping, and then adding a bit of creamy indigo to the very end. To make it easier to follow along, this is the sword, the tip, the long edge, and the belly. Now with the thin teal in the belly of the brush and the creamy indigo right on the very tip, I lay the whole sword down on the paper and then just pull across. This is what I call our full sword shader, but my brush wasn't saturated enough. I'm going to pick up my paint again, a little bit better, put a little bit more blue on there. This is a great synthetic brush, but it holds less water and paint than, for example, a sable blend. So you're wondering, why am I using the synthetic brush instead of the sable? It's because I'm double loading and painting feathers, so I have to re-dip frequently anyway. If you'd like to see a full comparison, see the video up here in the corner so that you know which one suits you best. Now I can see these strokes here in the outer wing. Just a little bit different. Here my full sword shader stroke looks like a rectangle, but the wing looks more like a triangle on the end or a sword. Lucky we're using our dagger because it has a beautiful sword. Again, we use the full length of the sword, but then instead of dragging it across, we drag it down in a diagonal. I'm going to call this the diagonal full sword shader. It's great to practice these, and you can curve them a little bit, and you can already see the wings happening. So we overlap. So here's the diagonal sword shader, and on the other wing, and you may have already spotted the same stroke in the top two feathers of the tail. We'll have a look at the next stroke, which is for the secondary feathers, and then we can paint the wing on the bluebird. The secondary feathers, they're more or less all in a straight line. They still overlap each other and have a little curve or arc at the bottom and then are extended up. By placing the sword on the paper and pushing our brush forward, curving it and back, just like the letter C, we can create an arc as well. It's an ideal stroke for various petals, feathers, and fish scales. But with our overlapping secondary feathers, we only need half an arc and we need to extend it. So we're going to have an extended half arc. And this is ideal for the overlapping secondary feathers. And the next one overlaps. But as you can see, the consistency of my paint isn't quite right. My light blue needs to be tea-like, not completely watery, and my indigo needs to be creamy. His covert feathers are just little arcs. Now it's totally time to start painting our bluebird. I've loaded my brush and I'm testing the stroke on a scrap piece of paper. I've turned my paper for a comfortable reach, and with my long edge on the leading line, I can start painting my feathers. I need to reload frequently because I'll either run out of paint or the two colors will start to mix too much. I'm doing a lot of paper turning for comfort, and especially if you're a left-hander, well, yes, I guess you would be starting on the other side perhaps, I'm not sure. Now for the secondary feathers, and an important tip. We're looking at the bird from a bird's eye view, so from top onto the outside feathers. As you can see, all the feathers overlap each other And if you forget which way they overlap, well, here's a tip. Just think of roof tiles. Each one slides just under the one above it. A bird's wing works exactly the same way. From the body out to the wingtip, each feather tucks under the one before it. That's why when we're painting them, you need to work from the outside in. So from the tip into the body, you're laying the tiles from the bottom up. Another way of looking at it is if you look at the three prominent feathers, which are called the tertiaries on the bird's back, you can see that the top one is on top of the second one and the third one. So all other feathers will be underneath as well. This also means that if you were painting the bird from the bottom side, you would do it completely in the opposite way. You would still start with the outer feather, but this time the focus is on the curve of the feather and actually just the shadow that it creates. The next row of feathers are the coverts, and they're just a series of little arcs and reducing in size by the row. These coverts actually overlap a different way. If you'd like to see a detailed video on how all these feathers work, see this video up here in the corner. So there's our first wing. The other side is further away and therefore foreshortened a bit, as it's hidden behind the body. The feathers only need to be suggested, and I've even reduced the number of them. If you're a lover of birds and flowers and some landscapes, I invite you to subscribe to this channel because there's always something new, and I go out of my way to find new and exciting things for you to see. I'm also only suggesting those three prominent tertiary feathers. I don't want to make it too busy with too many feathers everywhere, so I'm just gently blending in some of the paint over the body. Now it's time for the beak, and my dagger is the absolute perfect shape for a lovely beak and just to stamp it on. We're looking at the bird from an angle from above and a little bit side on, so the eye will be more of a flattish oval, but I've left the little white highlight in there. For the detail on the head, I'm using my dagger brush just as though I'd be using a round brush. And then comes the crown, which is the top part of the bird's head. So I'm just suggesting it and lightly washing it out as well. Crown is the smaller part of the head and the lower part of the head's a bit bigger. So I'm just suggesting it like this. Because the wing overlaps the body on this side closest to us, I'm making the bird's body there darker, which helps to make the overlapping more believable. Now it's time for the tail, and the tail starts somewhat in the middle of the bird at the end of the spine, and all the tail feathers start at that point. So when I paint them, I paint from the outer tip and focus on the placement of the tailbone. For the outer feathers of the tail that also fold in under the top two feathers, we'll use the extended diagonal half sword shader. Now, I know that's a long name, but the reason for all these names isn't to confuse you, but to help you picture the stroke just by naming it. And really, it's quite similar to the extended half arc we did for the secondary feathers. And I'm sure you can picture it. A few more arcs for the feathers on the rump. And then for some extra form, I'll add a bit of a shadow to the far wing just to emphasize that the body overlaps the wing. And a little rounding off to the underbelly. See how we've basically built the whole bird in just a few brushstrokes. The diagonal full sword shader for the flight feathers and the top two tail feathers. The extended half arc for the secondaries and the other tail feathers. Little arcs for the coverts and a simple stamp for the beak. We've also used the brush as a detailing round brush around the head, all with one dagger. But not only that, even more importantly, we've recognized the brushstrokes and knew exactly what to apply and where, and that's the essence of Brushstrokes Before Paint. If you'd like personal live interaction, problem solving, refining something, see me over at Skool. There's a 7-day free trial, and I'm so proud of the results we've already achieved in the group. The link is here and in the description below. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.